Hello, this is XboxAhoy, and this is episode 3 of my Black Ops weapon guide. Let's begin. In this episode, we're covering the first weapon in the shotgun category, the Olympia. The Olympia is a double-barreled shotgun, and is part of one of the default classes, so you'll be able to use it right from the start. The Olympia was marketed as the Rottweil Olympia 72. Rottweil is a German brand, owned by Dynamic Nobel, but the weapon itself was produced under license by Italian arms manufacturer Fratelli Gamba Armi. It was made in 1972, with the Olympia moniker likely applying to the Olympic Games, which took place in Munich that year. The Olympia has 2 barrels in an over and under configuration, and a bead sight on the bore axis near the muzzle. A thoroughbred sporting shotgun, the Olympia is designed for skeet shooting, and although not intended for use in combat, takes on the role with aplomb in Black Ops. There's no magazine to speak of, but 2 barrels means 2 chambered rounds. Reloading is done via a break barrel, and the 2 spent cartridges are automatically extracted. The weapon fires 12 gauge shotgun cartridges, most likely double-aught buck in-game. The Olympia is a high damage shotgun, on par with the Stakeout, and the fact that it's double-barreled means you can get the 2 shots off relatively quickly compared to the pump action. 1 hit kills are common, and 2 will finish off most within your effective range. Be warned that outside of this range your pellets will have no effect, so using a shotgun from middle range out is an entirely fruitless pursuit. Spread is relatively high compared to the other shotguns, and recoil tends upwards. Although given the spread and low capacity, recoil isn't a major factor at all as far as accuracy is concerned. Your mobility and aim speed are quick with the shotguns, just 200 milliseconds to aim down the sight, the same as an SMG. The reload is painfully slow, however, taking between 3 and 4 seconds to complete. With just 2 rounds chambered before you need to reload, you've really got to make every shot count with this weapon. Your choice of loadout is simple with most of the shotguns, and especially so with the Olympia, as there are no available attachments. As for the rest of your loadout, I'd strongly recommend a pistol as a reliable and fast-drawing close-range backup. All too often with the Olympia, you'll find yourself needing just 1 more shot to finish a wounded enemy. Second chance, in particular, will be your bane when using this shotgun. The CZ75 with extended mags is probably the best choice, as it has the best capacity of all the handguns. For your grenades, I'd recommend Semtex in your lethal slot, as it's a useful close-range offensive grenade. With it you can force enemies out of defensive positions and into an engagement on your own terms. For your tactical slot, I favoured the flash grenades. They're slow to throw, but completely blind enemies for a period of time. Great against groups of enemies and stubbornly bulwarked foes. Decoy grenades would also be a strong choice here, useful for luring enemies into close-range encounters. For your equipment, I found the jammer useful to compensate for the lack of a silencer on the Olympia. Set it in a position close to the enemy, and when you fire your weapon, those nearby will be left unaware of your presence. The prime factor in your success with the shotguns is the element of surprise. If the enemy is aware of your position, you'll find yourself at a severe disadvantage. While the shotguns aren't exactly what I'd describe as weapons of stealth, the ability to remain off the radar when there's an enemy spy plane in the air is a very useful one. So Ghost is a sensible first perk choice. With Ghost you'll be able to get behind enemy lines, and if your team has a spy plane up, you can often anticipate an enemy's movement and lie in wait. Hit them from close range when they least expect it, and they won't stand a chance. The ability to remain hidden also allows you to take a more careful approach to your assault. Taking a moment in a dark corner to watch the radar will often help you to plan your next move. Don't just rush in, let the enemy make their own mistakes, and don't give them a chance of a fair firefight. One thing to beware with the Olympia is larger groups of enemies. With only 2 shots, and the lack of a reliable one-hit kill at the end of your effective range, the Olympia really suffers against more than one opponent. Our second perk choice helps address this flaw. Sleight of hand doubles the speed with which you can reload, cutting the lethargic 4-second process into a more manageable sub-2-second one. The limited capacity will still prove troublesome at times, but sleight of hand at least gives you a chance, especially in situations where the enemy isn't expecting you. Ideally, you'll engineer serial engagements, instead of taking on a group of enemies at once. But even when your foes form an orderly queue for your sights, having a quicker reload will come in very useful. If you're doing things right, you'll find yourself in close quarters with the enemy most of the time with the shotguns. And while not as effective as it has been in previous games, the quieter footsteps of Ninja make it a sensible third choice. Ninja Pro enhances the effect, completely silencing your own movement and amplifying your opponent's. The range at which you can hear footsteps is limited, but can make all the difference if you're waiting for the enemy to move near your position. You do, however, need to remain mobile when using the shotguns. You can't expect to camp in a high traffic corner for an entire game without the enemy getting wise to your tactic. Every move you do make should be carefully considered. Spy planes are essential for watching enemy movements and positioning yourself accordingly. The pace of the game you play should vary as suits the situation. Move quickly through open areas, slowly sweep through interiors, and don't be afraid to come to a complete halt if you're expecting an offensive push through a doorway or other choke point. Corners can be a very effective tool. Use them to control the range of engagement. The angles you expose should be those best suited to your weapon. Lure aggressive enemies around them to give them a buckshot surprise, and duck back around the corner to reload and prepare for the next wave. Charging in is usually suicide unless you're certain of an enemy's position. An SMG is a lot more forgiving up close than a shotgun. The Olympia works best as a counter to both aggressive and defensive opponents. In counter-offensive usage, you need to anticipate enemy movements and position yourself to strike unseen from behind or the side. When playing against enemies adopting a more defensive tack, covertly moving behind them and clearing out defenders under a counter spy plane or jammer can work very well. The Olympia boasts overwhelming firepower up close. The high damage and 2 quick shots you can unleash make it tough to beat within its effective range. The Stakeout has the superior capacity and tighter spread, but the Olympia will kill a single opponent quicker in most cases. The major downside is the lack of versatility. Unlike the SMGs, the shotguns are totally impotent outside their effective range, which forces you to adopt very particular tactics. The Olympia's paltry 2-round capacity can also hamper your effectiveness, but sleight of hand, your sidearm, grenades, and the knife can all help fill the gap. If you do your job right, the enemy will never see you coming, nor will they have any idea where you'll strike from next. Thanks for watching. This has been Xbox Ahoy. Join me next time when I'll be covering the first weapon in the LMG category, the HK-21. Until then, farewell.